This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? I'm excited to talk to you today. We're talking football, and you know this. You know when we get a chance to talk NFL, NCAA football, there's going to be passion, there's going to be excitement, there's going to be laughs, sarcasm. I can't wait to record over the next 60, 70 minutes with you. What's up, sir?
It's going to be like all football all the time from this point on, which is awesome. We're in the middle of August, and we're going to go all the way up until, February? Middle of February? It's going to be great, dude. I love football time. Speaking of football, and I know you love reality television shows, have you checked into, what is it? I think it's I'm So Cavalieri. It's the one with Jay Cutler and Kristen Cavalieri.
Everyone talks about how that show is playing and how Jay Cutler looks in this show. I have not watched it. It's just there has to be some limit. I mean, I watch all the Housewives. I watch all the reality television. That
all
one I have not watched. Have you peeked into that one?
Well, I was at work today and I was cleaning. And when I was cleaning, there was a television on and it had Good Morning Football on, which I love. I love Good Morning Football. If you get a chance, check that out on NFL Network. It's great. Nate Burleson's on that, and he's really good. And that guy's a total Lions honk. He loves himself some Lions. It's funny. But they were talking about it, and they cut to this scene, and I was immediately engrossed. Like I couldn't pry myself away from it. Like I had to go do other things, and I was just like so involved in it, and I couldn't leave the room that it was on. And I was like, wow, I need to check this out. Like I want to go home and set it on my DVR now.
What was going on?
They were just like sitting there talking. That was it. But it's Jay Cutler. And like every time I see Jay Cutler, I get the image of smoking Jay Cutler. Like I feel like he should have a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And it's just like Jay Cutler is so polarizing. So
see, I'm not sure I want to see football players in their domestic life. That's
dude, you want to see this guy.
I think Travis Kelce has a good show, too, that's been on the same channel.
I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, Kelce dated, I think he went on a show where he dated a bunch of women. He went on a dating contest, and now I think that...
he's a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it was him.
I'm going to check this one out, too.
Yeah.
But, like, he's just like... He's like the guy who does nothing all day long. Like, legitimately. Kristen Cavalieri was talking to him like, here, you got to watch the kids. He was like, I got to watch the kids. Like, he was upset about being a dad. It's so Jay Cutler, right? And she was like, well, I got to get up. I'm going to go to bed because I got to get up at the butt crack of dawn. And he was like, maybe I'll get up with you. Maybe I'll have some coffee. like he does nothing all day long. It's so great. He's so Jay Cutler. That should be the name of the reality show. He's so Jay Cutler.
Nice.
I got to check it out. And you know what? I'm going to set it on my DVR. I'm going to get around to watching it, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to report back to you.
Exactly. Full review of the Kristen Cavalieri reality show featuring Jay Cutler. It's really her show because of the fact that she was really, at the time, prior to dating Jay Cutler, she was her own thing. She had...
Well, wasn't she on, like...
The Hills.
Was it The Hills?
Yeah, she was MTV famous.
Okay, it was The Hills and it was the OC, right?
Exactly.
And then she spun that into what? Like, what does she do now? Is she a
fashion
model?
design.
Is that it?
Entrepreneur, stuff like that. Yeah.
So no real job, just stuff. People pay you. You look cute, so we'll pay you. How the hell did she ever hook up with Jay Cutler?
Well, you hang out in the same circle, you can meet football players.
Like, okay, here's the thing. Have you ever just, like, stopped and just looked at Jay Cutler? Like, I was watching him today, and he looks like the most average, ordinary guy you'd ever meet in your entire life, right? He looks like a guy that you would go to the bar with, and you would get totally annihilated with, and then you'd have to call your wife to come bail you out of jail because you guys got in trouble.
Look, Adam, I know I don't want you to think that I'm being judgmental or anything, but look, if you added 8 zeros to your bank account, you would be sexy.
Oh, hell yeah. I already know.
So here's what happens.
I already know.
You know, they're hanging out, and Jay Cutler maybe is in a bar, and, you know, there's whispers, oh, that's Jay Cutler. And she goes, oh, okay, yeah, he's like a 3.
But he's not even a good NFL quarterback.
Wait, let me set the scene of how it goes. So, you know, they're whispering her and her friends at the table, oh, that's Jay Cutler. And they ask, oh, he's a 3, he's okay. And then she Googles Jay Cutler. He's a 3, he's okay. All of a sudden, she goes to her iPhone 8, and Googles.
You make him sound like he's us.
So she Googles Jay Cutler, and she goes, oh, NFL quarterback. He's a 6. Let's go walk right over there.
He's a 6.
Whereas she Googles John Macaroon. Oh, nah, he's a 3. Forget it.
He's a 6 because of his
Google has helped everybody in the world of, yeah, exactly. Google's helped guys who are rich because you Google and everyone knows how much you're worth.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to talk to him.
I just like, he's a 3. No, wait, he's a 6 now. Let's go talk to him. Dude, when I'm watching this, I'm sitting here watching this guy, and I'm just like, I just want to go have beers with him. I don't even like Jay Cutler. I absolutely hate you. Do you remember a couple years ago in our fantasy league, my team name was Jay Cutler's Pink Insulin Pump because he's a diabetic, right?
Yeah.
And a little known fact about Jay Cutler, he's a diabetic. He's just like your boy. Diabetic to the extreme. The beatus is a bad thing. So anyways, this guy, I absolutely hate him. I ended up having to draft him because there were no quarterbacks left in our league, and he was my backup. But I ended up drafting Jay Cutler, and I absolutely despise this guy. Despise him in real life. Yet I'm watching him on television, and I'm falling in love with this man.
Now, before we talk about college football, the Detroit Lions, some of the scandals that are going on across the landscape in the sporting world, it's nice sometimes to sit back and watch other people who have cable deal with some tension. The Big Ten Network might not be airing on local television here for a lot of fans in Michigan because Comcast and the Big Ten Network don't have a deal. Do I have Comcast? Never have.
Nope.
I've been a Dish Network customer for the last 16 years. Now, I've had MTV gone, CBS, the NFL Network was off of the rotation there, but right now college football fans are gripping because if they don't strike a deal, you're going to miss out on some serious football. And it's kind of nice to sit back and go, oh, switch over to satellite. It's great. It doesn't work out. I don't know how it works for streaming, but right now people are chirping regarding this whole Comcast situation.
I've got Sling, and I don't have a problem with Big Ten leaving. Not yet, anyways. You've never had Comcast in your life?
Never had.
How have you never had Comcast? You live in this area, and you lived in this area your entire life, and you've never once had Comcast?
When I was back,
never had to go through the trials and tribulation.
Here's why.
Of dealing with Comcast and their horrid customer service.
Now, there are times where you go, oh, man, having ethnic parents is really weird when your friends come over and they want, my dad wanted to put a bunch of my friends to work and talk about their work ethic and stuff like that and talk politics with like 12-year-olds. But the good thing, one of the great things about having ethnic parents is they want ethnic programming. So you can't get really, back in the day, you couldn't get ethnic programming on a cable situation. So they went, okay, how do we get Arabic programming? Satellite dish. So they picked one. They picked Dish Network, and the sports were great. So it was a win-win, and we just stuck with it because of the fact we loved the service. They were super nice. After year 3 and 4, they'd call us and just check in with us every now and then. Hey, you can do this. They would call us and give us savings. And just be like, hey, you're doing this. Thank you for being a loyal customer. Year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They give us those free movies, and they just were great. They were great. And now, when there were problems, I would call up and be like, look, I'm pissed, I'm leaving. They'd be like, no, we'll give you HBO free. They just were so nice. And so I made it a game where every time they cancel, I'd be on the phone and be like, look, I'm leaving. And they'd just be like, sure. They don't even check. Like, literally, there was a couple times I called where Comcast never came. And I just said, look, I think Comcast and DirecTV are coming to my door a lot, and they're offering great deals. They'll be like, oh, yeah, Mr. Macaroon, thank you. You've been a customer now 15, 16 years. We'll give you this and that. I'm like, oh, all right, this is great. I love it. And so I've been with them for 15 years. Obviously, I understood that, if it was only Dish that was losing channels, like if, every year I'd lose ABC or anything like that, but it happens every 5 months. You see these deals because they negotiate deals, and all these TV providers want a bunch of money to provide their content, and I get it. And Dish Network has always been upfront in their programming. They say, look, we want to deal with these people, but if we took this deal, and they say, look, their price increase, if we work with ESPN, we would have to then pass along a 10% increase to you guys, and we don't want to do that. So we're negotiating, we're trying to extend it, and da-da-da. And so they had the CEO right there on his own channel 24 hours a day explaining why these things were happening. So I believed it. And so the price has been great, and literally the content has been fine where I haven't, paid a significant amount, so I haven't cut the cord. So it's great to just sit back and not have to deal with it this time around with college football. I'll be watching FS1, Fox, Big Ten Network. I'll have all the access to college football that I want, no problems. It's great. Comcast, look, their reputation is not that great.
Oh, no, Comcast is horrible.
Great internet, but all you hear is
and even
customer service issues.
Not even all that awesome anymore.
Exactly.
Dude, Comcast is the worst. I went from having Comcast to having DirecTV to now having Sling because I got tired. DirecTV ended up becoming similar to Comcast. I just couldn't handle it. So I switched, and I'm done. And I still get emails from DirecTV all the time like, hey, come back. We'll give you $300. Come back. We'll give you all this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I love Sling. I love what I got going on with Sling.
It's going good, right?
Sling is great, man. The only thing I'll say that I don't like about Sling is it is streaming. And while you stream,
buffering,
it's
a little.
I don't even deal with buffering.
Okay.
It's just a little bit delayed. So a lot of times what'll happen is, like, say you're watching the Tiger game.
Doc could be like, yes! And you'll be like, what the hell's going on?
Yes.
What's he yesing about?
There are times where me and you are texting back and forth.
Like, what's he
between
talking
each other,
about?
and I'm
Damn
like,
it.
I have no idea what you're talking about. And then it's like, oh, okay, there it is. There it is. Or like the game will go final. My phone will say the game is final. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Now the game is final.
It's not as extreme on satellite, but it is delayed as opposed to cable, Fox Sports Detroit. It's maybe 15 seconds behind the regular broadcast. So I definitely sometimes have a Twitter.
With streaming, it's probably closer to almost 30 to a minute behind, which totally sucks. Especially if you're watching a sporting event, because everybody else is cheering. I got you blowing up my Twitter feed when something good's happening or when something bad's happening. I'm like, what is he talking about? Just give it time. Give it time. And there it is. So.
All right. Now it's time. We get a chance to break down Detroit Lions preseason game 1. I loved the 40-minute chat I had on the Motor City Sports Rant with Jason that airs every Tuesday on this network. Now you're here. I get a chance to see it through your eyes. Real quickly, because I got a chance already to talk about it. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It was a little bit sloppy with all the penalties. There were some things definitely to talk about in terms of the running backs, not seeing Stafford, Matt Patricia, and what he looked like on the sidelines, his nature in terms of his, theatrics and his passion and things like that. So that was cool to see. It was fun to see Lions football. There's definitely a lot of things you can criticize regarding Lions football. It took all of one possession for Oakland to make huge plays. Luckily, they shot themselves in the foot, but there are a lot of issues that did pop up regarding improvements for the Lions. It was just great to watch. I was okay with not seeing Matthew Stafford. Dude's a vet, 10 years in. He's already worked with this OC for a significant amount of time. I have no problem with that. What I told your dad at the birthday party was I was really disappointed in Jake Rudock and Matt Castle because, and I told your dad he loved my take. I was like, look,
was he trying to find some fantasy information from you?
No, he was just we were just sharing our opinions back and forth, no debate. It was like, this is what I think, this is what he thought, and it was great.
He stayed up to watch the game.
He told me he did.
Wow.
So
I like how you talk to my dad more than I talk to my dad.
I said, look, I was disappointed in that we all know Castle and Rudock are not the future. They're not going to see the field barring injury. But it didn't look like those were guys that were hungry to compete with Matthew Stafford. And that's what my thought was like, look, if I'm in that room, I'm out there going, I'm tweeting, I'm taking Stafford's job. And everyone would look at me like, well, are you crazy? He's got $27 million. You're making 2.4. I'm like, I don't care. I'm working hard so that if I get into the game, I'm going to make everybody go, I want Jock and Adam to say, put me in the game. I want to cause a quarterback controversy. And I didn't see that. It just looked like guys that were in the room.
Just going through the reps.
I was like, where's the competition? Where's the fight? Why are these two guys competing with Stafford? I want a guy that was hungry.
Yep.
It didn't look like that with Rudock and with Matt Castle. It just looked like two guys that needed to fill out a roster spot for Matthew Stafford. I don't want that. I want somebody in there that's going to say, look, Matt's the guy, but I'm here to do the best that I can to get on the field. It didn't look like that. So that was one of the disappointing factors. Obviously, the front seven was a disaster. The amount of yards that they gave up in the running game was tough. But overall, in the end, you got to see a lot of good things in regards to the running game. You got a chance to see Frank Ragnow do some things. You got a chance to see that secondary. You got a chance to see the bend, don't break philosophy where they gave up a bunch of plays, but they didn't give up a bunch of touchdowns. They were able to lock it down. The biggest concern that I would say is the Lions made Connor Cook look like a stud. And I was like, well, that's Connor Cook. Now he improved. Great footwork. He made some throws. But when you let Connor Cook, drop back 3, 4, 5 steps, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, dude's like, oh, I can flash my jersey, keep it clean. They did not put any of the quarterbacks on the ground. And I'm like, oh, this is why the Khalil Mack talk kind of started to rise up, is that that would be a guy that would get in someone's face and maybe rough up the quarterback. They let the quarterbacks do whatever they wanted, and Connor Cook was clean, and he was able to pick apart the Lions defense. And if that progresses throughout the season, there are quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Garoppolo that will carve up that defense. And so I'm telling you now, get ready to see it. The Lions defense early on, first 6 games, is going to be on the field a lot. The question will be, how many points do they give up? How many touchdowns do they give up? They're going to be on the field. They're going to give up chunk plays.
Okay, why do you think that they're going to be on the field so much?
Bend, don't break defense.
Well, okay, I get that, but they have if what we took out of preseason game 1, right? And let's put the caveat on it. It is preseason game 1. You and I both agree there's a lot of good things in that run offense. Their run game looks superior to what it was last year.
Improvement, yes.
If they're able to run the ball and possess the ball, why would that put the defense back on the field? I think they can keep the defense off the field by possessing the ball and running it more and running it at a better clip than they have in, I don't know, last year, the year after, the year before that, the last 5 or 6 years. I think this offense, especially with the run game, I think it's light years ahead of where it was last year. And again, it's what I'm taking out of preseason game 1. All of this is going to change as the preseason moves on and as we see a little bit more and a little bit more. And then once we finally get into the regular season, the one thing I can take out of preseason game 1 that I really liked, especially as it relates to the run game, is that offensive line. I thought that offensive line, for the most part, played really well. I thought they did a pretty decent job opening up some holes for the running backs. And I thought the running backs did a really good job exploiting that and getting the yardage that was available to them. The one thing I love about LeGarrette Blount, he falls forward. He gets stymied at the line. He'll sit there and he just keeps pushing forward, and then he just falls down. Next thing you know, he's got 2 and 3 yards when it could have been a busted play. So I like what I'm seeing out of this young run game that Matt Patricia is trying to develop and install here. I think the defense is going to struggle, and I think you're right. It's going to be a lot of bend, don't break. That front 7 looked atrocious. They looked absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And I know that they didn't have Ziggy Ansah, and I know he's a big key to that defense doing a lot of good things, especially putting pressure on the quarterback. It looked abysmal. It was pitiful. It looked a lot like what we've seen for the last 3 seasons. You have tight ends just running down the field wide open. So back to your point about Connor Cook. Connor Cook is sitting in the pocket, and he's got 5-6 seconds. Nobody's pressuring him. Nothing's going on. There is a tight end running across the middle of the field, and there's not a player in a Detroit jersey around the tight end. And Connor Cook doesn't even bother looking at this guy who's wide open. Do you know why? Because he has all the time in the world to launch the ball downfield to a wide receiver who's wide open.
You brought back warts from years past. I totally forgot about the fact that for some reason the Lions do not know how to cover tight ends. It's just weird.
It's absolutely brutal. I mean, them covering the flats, it did not happen on that Friday night when they played the Raiders. It did not happen. So the front 7 to me is probably the biggest sticking point and my biggest, I don't know if you want to call it an overreaction to game 1, but I was most upset with what I seen out of that front 7.
Yes.
It really pissed me off and irked me because it was everything that we've seen before. I mean, when I can watch a tight end just roam around like he's blind and nobody's covering him, it just brings back all these old feelings.
We addressed the bad. What was the good in your eyes?
I love the running game. I really did enjoy the running game. I thought the running game, like I said, it looks light years ahead. There is a lot to build off of here. Now, I don't think the running game is going to be, tops in the league, but you've got some pieces, and you can kind of see it coming together, and you can see what Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia were trying to do this offseason by addressing the front line, and I was very critical of the Ragnow pick. Very critical of it. But you can see what they were trying to do, and I think Ragnow is going to be a very good player for a very long time. The other day, Graham Glasgow got rolled up on in training camp. I'm not sure if he's going to play against the Giants. If I'm the Lions, I'm probably holding him out. I'll probably hold him out. If he can go, I will probably end up holding him out up until I just hold him out. I wouldn't even put him back in because I was going to say I'd put him back in for the 4th preseason game, but why bother? You're not starting any of your starters in game 4. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'd probably just hold him out just to make sure he's safe and make sure he's healthy, because the one thing that this team can't afford, it can't afford an injury along that offensive line. Not right now. So I like the offensive line. I like the running game. I like the pieces that they have there, and I like the way that they're building. The quarterbacks were absolutely abysmal as far as your backups. Absolutely abysmal. I put them right up there with the front seven, just being poor and not getting any pressure on the quarterbacks. But overall, I thought the run game looked good. It's something that we haven't been able to say for a long time. Kerryon Johnson looks like he's going to be that running back that we all want him to be. He's patient. He's able to hit the hole. He's able to get outside. He's got that little bit of burst where it's kind of a game changer, you know? It's going to get him to that next level on the defense. It'll get him past the guys who are in the defensive line and get him past the linebackers, and then it's going to force the safety to make a play. And that's what you want to see. That's what you want your running backs to do. You want that one-on-one matchup with your running back versus either a safety or a cornerback, because 9 times out of 10, your running back's going to get the better of that deal. So, and that's what you're hoping for.
Overall, would you say that, okay, there's now room for improvement along that defense? Now, you asked me the question, why do I think the defense is going to stay on the field? Okay, well, from what I saw, I saw that the Lions were not able to stop the run. I saw Marshawn Lynch truck down the field without being barely touched.
Dude,
I saw quarterbacks not being pressured.
Can we talk about that play real quick? I don't think there was a penalty on that play. I think the Lions got absolutely lucky.
Officiating is going to be a topic in terms of those hits and the helmet rule. It's going to be talked about, and I talked to Jason about it as well. It's like it's really hard for defenders these days to make any play. So you ask me, well, what gives me any evidence that the Lions defense is going to struggle? Well, I just look at the New England Patriots defense. There was talk last year. Did you see how they started? And in years past, how the Patriots defense has started? They look horrible. Mm-hmm. They give up tons of yards. There are even games where people are like, what's going on with that Matt Patricia defense? But then all of a sudden, as the year progressed, they'd get better. They'd clamp down. They'd make plays at the key moments. So early on, and especially with the Lions, can they learn his system that fast? I feel like Matt Patricia's smarter than every guy in the entire organization. He's going to be like, oh, God, these guys don't get it. But what's going to happen is they're going to, I think their philosophy will be, I'm going to, try our best to limit touchdowns. We'll give up. It's going to look crooked in terms of the number of yards teams get. But when it comes down to what happens in the red zone, they'll clamp down. They got talent to then start pressuring the quarterback and just give a bunch of field goals.
I think the most important thing you just said is this team will look dramatically different on the defensive side of the ball.
In the second half of the year.
Yes, absolutely. I think the first half, you're right. It's probably going to be a little bit of a disaster, especially with how difficult their schedule is set up to be. So I can see them, like you said, bend don't break, giving up a ton of field goals, giving up a ton of yards, and then right around, week 7, you automatically see a huge improvement in the way that defense is working and how efficient it is. And I think that's going to be a good thing. I think Matt Patricia, like you said, one of the smartest football minds in all the land, right? I think he's going to start to incorporate little bits and pieces every single week. Almost like taking Lego blocks and stacking them. And by the time it's all done, he's going to have a spaceship, and that's going to be his defense. But it's going to be totally different from what you get week 1 to what you get week 17. I think that defense has a long road ahead of itself, and there's going to be a lot that has to change, because what I seen in preseason game 1, it's bad. It's really, really, really bad.
So what do you expect game 2 versus the Giants? They're in town also practicing with Detroit. We get to see Odell Beckham. We get to see a quarterback that's actually won a Super Bowl on the field. What do you think about this week in practice for the Lions and the Giants and the game on Friday? People talking, well, how much are we going to see Stafford? What's it going to look like? People definitely want to check out the concession prices and what's going on there. It's going to be a fun time, having football back in Detroit this Friday. What do you expect? What do you want to see?
I'm looking forward to the OBJ-Darius Slay matchup. It's been really quiet on that front, and both those guys are talkers. So I want to see how that's going to evolve, even if it's only for one series. I want to see them go head-to-head against each other. I want to see the running game take another step forward. I want to see the offensive line take another step forward. I would love to see something different from that defense. If the defense can go out there and get a little bit of pressure on Eli Manning, I'll be happy. You don't have to take him to the ground, but just go get some pressure on the Giants quarterback, even if it isn't Eli Manning. I need to see something from that defense, because that defense did absolutely nothing the other night. So I just want to see improvement. That's really all I'm looking for. I'm watching for individual matchups too. I watched when the Lions took on the Raiders. I was specifically watching all the guys along the offensive line, not how they worked as a unit, but how they worked individual and what they did. I think On the defensive side of the ball, I sat there and I really honed in on Kennard and where he was kind of being moved all over the field and how he was trying to get to the quarterback, because I think when everything is said and done, he is going to basically be he's going to be the guy who's going to be opposite of Ziggy Ansah. He's going to be the guy who's going to be putting pressures on quarterbacks, and he's going to be the guy who's going to be helping get sacks. So I want to see how he develops and how he matures from preseason game 1 to preseason game 2. And I don't want to see him get pushed around. I've seen way too many times where he was getting pushed around by the Raiders' offensive line. I don't want to see that. That's what I'm really, really looking for as we go into game 2 against the Giants. What about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, I guess I was looking forward to seeing Saquon Barkley, but that likely is not to happen.
Yeah,
Odell Beckham.
Doesn't sound like it.
People in practice wanted to see Darius Slay versus Odell. I kind of want to see that a little bit, see how Darius Slay, in his continued growth, how does he match up with an NFL superstar? I definitely just want to see continued progress. I want to see how they're going to utilize Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick. I want to see continued progress in terms of pressuring the quarterback, like you said. And I just want to see overall the theme that emerged in that first half was sloppiness. A lot of penalties, a lot of weird plays, a lot of stops and starts. I just want to see a little bit more clean football, and I want to see a little bit more of pressure, and I want to see the emergence of an identity. Because right now, the Lions, we always ask, what's their identity? Are they thumpers? Are they going to be home run hitters? Are they going to be flashy? I want to see the emergence of something where I can say, okay, I think I can start to identify what this team is. And early in the preseason, you're not going to get that, but I do want to see some emergence of what is the identity of this team.
Can we talk about Amir Abdullah for a little bit?
Go ahead.
He looked awesome in that preseason game. He looked really good. I don't think he has a place on this team. I don't think he has a place as a running back, and I don't think he has a place as a kick returner. I think this team is going to be forced to trade him. And what's going on in the league right now, I think it bodes well for the Lions. You got a guy like Darius Geis going down with an ACL. You have other running backs who are banged up and injured right now before the season even gets started. The more and more atrophy there is at the running back position, the better it is for the Detroit Lions. There may be a market where you can take this guy who was probably going to be cut, and you can turn around and maybe get a 4th-round pick for him. And I'm not sure about how you feel about that or where you're at on it, but I think they have to trade him. They've got to get something back in return. Now, you invested, a 2nd-round pick in Amir Abdullah, so getting a 4th-round pick probably isn't the best return on your investment. But if you can get a 4th-round pick, I'm going to call it a win all day. How about you?
Yeah, if you can trade him, obviously they're going to look to utilize him. I think everyone noticed they were featuring him to see what he could do. He looked good in the run game, didn't fumble the football, so that's good. He looked okay.
Real good.
So I do think, though, with his salary, he doesn't seem to be a high risk in terms of if you utilize him in special teams. But yeah, I do think he's the odd man out, and he's somebody that if a deal could be made, I definitely would love to see him maybe get a 5th-round, 6th-round pick or something for him. And everybody's like, whoa, keep Amir Abdullah. Look, if Kerryon Johnson and LeGarrette Blount go down, I'm not confident at all because I'm just going to obviously see that teams will just stack the box, he'll gain a yard, and then they'll just force Matthew Stafford to throw it.
Yeah.
Period. That's a simple strategy because that's what people have done in the past. It's like, if you look at his numbers, he's not averaging 5 yards a carry.
I mean, he's not a guy who has breakaway speed. He's just kind of a guy. He's a guy who kind of has a name because he played pretty decent at a big-time college. That's really what it comes down to. Look, Theo Riddick's going to be your 3rd-down change of pace back.
Exactly.
I think Kerryon Johnson, by the time the season's over, he's going to be your featured back. I think he's on his way right now.
Yep.
And I think your thumper, the guy who's going to get you the short yardage, that's going to be LeGarrette Blount. So you've got your 3 running backs. You got what you got going on here. Amir Abdullah doesn't fit into any of those. He's not a thumper. He's not your every down back. And I don't even think he's your change of pace back because he doesn't have any speed and he's not really elusive. So what do you do with this guy? You're one of the few teams right now that has 4 healthy running backs, if not more. I mean, do you want to count Zenner and Dwayne Washington? It's up to you if you want to or not.
Nope.
But whatever. I mean, you got 4 healthy running backs that you could do whatever you want with them. I don't think they're going to carry 4 running backs. It doesn't make sense to me. Just like I don't think they're going to necessarily carry 3 quarterbacks. Somebody's got to go here. Whether it's Jake Rudock, whether it's Matt Castle, whether it's Amir Abdullah. Somebody's got to go here. And I wouldn't be surprised if 2 of those 3 names I just threw out there are gone by the time Game 4 rolls around.
Now, before our first break, the Lions made news. they've decided to roll back some pricing. They've looked at the Atlanta Falcons model. The Falcons made a ton of money with really cheap and affordable food. So the line said, okay, there's going to be some rollback in prices. $5 beers, really good deals in terms of I think you can get a hot dog, chips, and soda for like $10. So it's fine. I'm really happy that the Detroit Lions have realized, okay, look, our product has been subpar for so long. Let's not gouge these fans because in the end, every hot dog basically costs the team $1, or less than that. And they're trying to jack it up to make you pay for a hot dog for $5 or $6. No, make it affordable. Couple dollar hot dog, couple dollar pop. You know what? They're making money hand over fist. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you're willing to just scale back a little bit and not gouge your fans and just try to milk every single penny, it's all good. And for me, am I willing to still go out there? Now, if tickets are free, I'll be out there. But, for me, it's just when you just evaluate the experience you can have at home versus the game, it's still better at home. So I'm not going out to too many games this year, but I'm happy that at least when the fans spoke, that the Lions were willing to say, look, fans, what do you want? And obviously the number one thing is going to be, hey, put a competitive team on the field. And number two is, hey, help us out a little bit. Lower the prices. And so they didn't do that in terms of tickets, but what they did was they helped to offset the increase in ticket prices by lowering how much it costs. But really, in the end, if you really think about it, honestly, if you're smart and you actually look at what you're doing with your money and you go, damn, I spent $50 on food at Ford Field. You can roll up into any bar, have an awesome burger and a beer for $18. So if you're the person that kind of wants to eat at the stadium, personally, I'm like, you know what? You deserve to get gouged because the prices are ridiculous. So on that front, I'm anti-consumer, but the average Joe deserves the best treatment possible. But if you want to take Doc and Jock's life advice, similar to what the Browns are doing in terms of finances, dude, eat at home, slam some beers in the parking lot, go in there and scream your head off, and you can walk out with just the ticket price. I mean, you can get affordable food beforehand. You and your buddies chip in, everybody kicks in $6, and you can live like kings, eat like kings before the game. Why pump money into restaurants that are jacking up prices that high? I never got into that because my dad told me easily. He's like, bro, I ain't paying no $7 for no freaking popcorn. He's like, what the hell, are you kidding me?
Did your dad refer to you as bro?
Yeah, no, he'd look, no. But in the end, it would be, I'll honestly be like, listen, fucker, you ain't getting none of this shit. Listen, you little fucker, what the hell's wrong with you? I'll buy you whatever you want for $4.
I'd love to see your dad refer to you as bro.
Yeah, bro. Listen, you little fucker, I bought you this ticket. You ain't getting no $6 pop. And if it is, he'll be like, how many refills do I get? None. Get the hell out of here.
Did you hear about what the Browns are doing, though?
The beer.
With
the chain winning Bud Light. That's weird. That's weird.
So if the Browns win a game, they have coolers stashed all over the place with Bud Light. They will automatically open, and then people can just go grab free beers. This is going to end in disaster.
Yeah, people are going to stampede for beer, right?
This is going to be horrible. On top of it, it's the Browns. Yeah. So when they win, it's like they won the Super Bowl. People are going to act crazy. It's free beer. They're football fans, so they're already animals. Good God, man. What is going... Honestly, Cleveland's going to burn to the ground.
Yeah.
Going to burn to the ground.
So what do you think? Cheap food.
I like what they're doing. The big issue I have with it, why not just extend it? Because they're only doing it for a happy hour. They're doing it to get you into the stadium early, and they're doing it to sit there and get you to...
Not during the game?
It's only for, I think it's from like
12 to 1. Oh, 10 to 1?
I think it's like 10 to 11, or it's 11 to 12. It's an hour before the game starts.
See...
So it's just a happy hour. That's all it is. Legitimately, it's a happy hour.
It shows you that I don't even read my own press releases.
They will do a 2-hour window for the Monday Night Football game, and they will do it for the Sunday Night Football game.
Forget it.
But it is just 1 hour before the game starts.
Okay, never mind. That's stupid. It's just
I don't know why they don't extend it out for the entire game.
Yeah, it's like you ever hear of tailgates? People like to tailgate with their homies.
Well, that's the thing, right?
That's when we're all getting drunk.
So if we're going to the game, right, chances are we're tailgating. Yeah. And if we're tailgating, it means we brought our own food, we brought our own beer. Why am I going to go into the stadium and pay money for stuff that I already have? Mm-hmm. And I can drink as much beer as I want, and I can eat as much food as I want. Why would I go pay for it?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the only way I can see this working, right, is if we end up getting a blizzard It's just snowing and it's uncomfortable, and it's that wet snow to where you feel absolutely awful about your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? Let's just go into the stadium early because this is miserable. That is the only way I see this working.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not really sure. It feels like another half-baked idea by the Lions.
Take Doc and Jock's advice, collect your money, and pool it with your friends, and you can eat like kings. You can get kebabs. Why hot dogs? You can eat better. You can get steak, ribs. You can make stuff. You can have a good time with it at a cheaper rate than this
Make
kind of
friends
food.
with the people who are next to you. They probably have better food than you do. You offer them a hot dog, they're going to offer you some ribs.
Exactly.
Do it.
All right, let's take our first time out, and we'll come back and we'll break down some college football, the good, the bad, some scandals. We'll look at Michigan, Michigan State, some great topics. We'll definitely look at some news that's being made all across the landscape of college football. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock, the second half of the podcast, college football. Don't miss it. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic. Why do we use them? We've recorded 1,000 podcasts, and we've been able to generate quality links. We've been able to share our project with supporters across the country and even overseas. So if you're looking to start a brand new project and you want to grow to the level of success as the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, we've become credentialed media. We got great shows airing every single day. We got people messaging us like, wow, good content. We got great reviews on iTunes. Look, you have to have a good host site. You have to have your supporters have the ability to just push a button and great audio come out. So definitely check out Podomatic.com if you're starting a brand new project. 2 to 3 weeks away, cuz Michigan, Notre Dame, September 1st, opening week is going to be off the chains. It's going to be awesome to see. Obviously, people are curious. They're starting to see, Shea Patterson is actually a real human being. He's actually been seen in pictures throwing the football. We've seen him in a Michigan jersey. Michigan State, we've seen great plays. We've seen practices. The footage is coming out. It's great to see. On that side of things, it's great, the hype, the waiting for depth charts to come out to see who's going to do what, who's making plays, who's struggling, things like that, who's transferring, who's going to be on the roster. Every single day provides an opportunity for some great news. That's one side of it. The other side is you got some warts regarding some players potentially taking advantage of universities. In Michigan, potentially some guys that have graduated or who no longer have eligibility have sold shoes. You have what's going on in Maryland and Ohio State. So right now, there's a mixed bag of good news, bad news, and things like that. But let's start with this. The University of Maryland has an epic scandal on its hand. And you see the part where everybody's evaluating and they're going, wait a minute, you really didn't take action until ESPN shined their light on your program. Why didn't you, when your player died, why wasn't there talk of apologies, taking accountability? It took the media to go, hey, wait a minute, what happened here, for you to acknowledge what actually happened. And then you got this situation evolving with Ohio State and Zach Smith and his situation where there were things that he did in terms of driving under the influence. So, you and I are both talking about it, and we're going, wait a minute, the Big Ten, in terms of their PR, is terrible. Are they becoming the SEC of the North? I mean, what is going on in the Big Ten? Is this what happens when you focus on competitiveness, when you bring in these high-priced coaches, these coaches with big egos? Is this what happens? Is that a DJ Durkin goes over there and says, look, in order for me to instill quality, we got to go hard. I got to run a player to death. Do I got to keep coaches on that I'm loyal to? Do I, if I'm Urban Meyer, do I just do what I think is right all the time? And no matter what everyone else thinks, do I just, act irregardless of the rules? It's really weird what's going on in the Big Ten. It seems like what's going on is that there's lack of oversight. And when this happens, things run amok.
Yeah, you're spot on. This, it's
odd, right?
It's deplorable is what it is.
Yeah.
As far as Maryland goes, it took them over 2 months to finally apologize to the parents. And then they come out and they took kudos to them for taking full blame for all of it. They took all the blame. So basically what's going to happen are...
But it comes off as hollow because it was not authentic. It's basically like, oh boy, you guys caught us. Our pants are down. Let's apologize and now take action. A person died.
Yeah. No,
that's like a program killer.
It took you 2 months to apologize. Like, what? Like, you basically killed this kid, and then by the time you got around to saying sorry to his parents, he's already been dead and buried for almost 8 weeks now.
Now, you and I joke around about negligence all the time. I always send you texts and tweets about people who can't get orders right, people who let people steal planes, stuff like that all the time. But this type of negligence is really unusual to think about because, okay, one athletic person, let's say the trainer, is riding a kid hard. You see the kid collapse. 8 other people don't like spray water on him, call the police. Not one person is not a player looks over and goes, "Oh man, dog, you okay? What's going on? Oh, this dude looks like he's having a seizure. Oh, what are you doing?" Nobody has the insight to go, "Hey, 60 minutes has passed. This dude's had a seizure. He ain't moving. Something's wrong. He's looking ill. He ain't right."
Dude, they had
60
training
minutes?
staffs go pick him up and walk him around. Like, he was out of his mind, had no idea what was going on, and they had people pick him up and move him around.
I don't understand that kind of negligence, and that's why people will say, look, DJ Durkin, if he wasn't implicit in this, your staff allowed this to happen. You got to be in charge of your staff. If you're seeing this and there's whispers, there's always whispers, and it's really weird because I look at it and I go, okay, if someone came to me and said, well, the podcast is doing this and that, and you go, okay, I'll look into it. I wouldn't totally dismiss it. And you look at it and you go, as a leader, you have to be aware of what's going on. You're getting paid a big amount of money. And look, I understand that you're Maryland and you want to change the culture. You want to become like Michigan, but you don't do it that way. You still are Maryland. You still got to have the ability to respect these kids. It's 2018. Player safety is at the top of the list. And yeah, you can use your words to kind of verbally uplift people. You can, tell them to push. But at the same time, if a kid is saying he can't do it, you stop. That's it.
Yep.
Player safety is important. It's so sad that a player has to die. Really, in the end, a player had to die for changes to be looked at.
Dude, they would have kids eat until they threw up.
Yeah, it's
like,
so odd.
what are you doing? That's like torture. It doesn't make sense. Like, my brain can't compute having somebody do that. And then if you're a coach like Urban Meyer, you're going to keep a guy on who you basically allowed to smack his wife around on the regular. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like it was like a one-time thing. He was drunk and something happened and set him off. And even there, it sounds like I'm trying to rationalize it and make it sound like it's okay when it's totally not. It absolutely isn't. But you're going to keep him on, and it wasn't like it was one incident or it was 2 incidences or 3 or 4. It was like 9 separate different occasions where something stupid happened. You just, like, I can't justify any of this. And these are stories that we're familiar with hearing about with SEC country being involved, Like, it's never out of the realm to hear, oh, Florida did this or Ole Miss did that, And now you've got Michigan getting mixed in with the selling of Jordan shoes.
So what happened with this story?
Well, what it sounds like is a player who is no longer part of the team sold some of his equipment. What it sounds like is it was number 52, and this sounds like it was from last year's team. Do you remember the one player who totally went off and threatened to kill Jim Harbaugh? It sounds like it was him. He sat there, he turned around and sold some of his personal gear. Now, the way this works and the way you get in trouble for this is if you are a student at the university and you turn around and you sell what the school has given you for whatever your athletic item is, you turn around and you sell it while you're still going to school, you can then, you're basically breaking NCAA rules. If you leave the university or you graduate or you go on to play professional football somewhere, you can then turn around and you can sell it no problem. You're no longer confined to the NCAA and those rules. So what this sounds like happened was this player, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, just Google search player threatens to kill Jim Harbaugh. You'll find it. He after he had left the school, it sounds like he turned around and sold some of his gear. So it doesn't sound like Michigan's going to get in any trouble, but the fact that Michigan was just kind of lumped in with these are the other 13 players that played for North Carolina, Marquette, and UCLA, and this is a big deal. This is a big story. And I think them to get lumped in with all this, it's just dirt on your name.
What I like from what I read was this stuff that's issued has your number and name on it. So if it's sold, people will know it's you.
Yes.
So I do like that, absolutely. And the NCAA probably should do that. Continue to just put markers that are identifying. so that if it shows up on eBay, people can see maybe a little inscription with the player's name, something in a patch, or something that lets people know, hey, this is university gear and this is somebody doing some nefarious things. But do you think the Big Ten has a problem in terms of discipline, in terms of, conference-wide, that teams, universities are doing things and are willing to maybe skirt the rules a little bit in the name of competitiveness when there's big money involved, when there's big-time athletes, when there's big-time coaches, when there's that much money around a sport, around the Big Ten? And college football is huge. It's a big-time thing on campuses. These athletes are like kings on campus. Do you think that maybe it goes up to the commissioner and maybe there needs to be some change in leadership in terms of overall, in terms of conference-wide? Because is it becoming a little bit too much in terms of negative news?
I would love for Jim Delaney to just go away,
too
go
much?
someplace.
Or do you say, you know what? It's too hard to regulate this. You just got to go case by case.
No. See, what I think the big issue is, it's just an oversight. What has happened is the head football coach has been giving so much power in the university that he basically sits right there at the right hand of the president and the athletic director. Do you remember when Gordon Gee sat there and talked about how he was hoping that the football coach, which I believe was Jim Tressel at the time, wouldn't fire him? Do you remember when that happened? I mean, that's the president of the university saying that he hopes that the football coach doesn't remove him from power. I think football coaches have been giving way too much power, and there's such a need and a drive to win and to win immediately. I mean, we talk about it with Jim Harbaugh all the time. We talk about how is Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat and how we have expectations of this team not just winning the Big Ten, but going on to compete in the playoff. And we're expecting that this season. This is his fourth year. I mean, good God, he doesn't even have his own quarterback in yet. And that's a big issue that we talk about all the time because it drives me insane that he's been here for 4 years and he has to go out there and he has to bring in a transfer again. But I digress. There is so much pressure lumped on these head coaches to win immediately, and they get so much power that what happens is they're allowed to do whatever it is that they want as long as it's in the name of getting a W, because those W's then lead to revenue, which come in the form of a bowl game, a sponsorship. I mean, Michigan and the Jordan brand, right? I mean, let's just keep it here, local. You know, Michigan and the Jordan brand, that's a big deal. That was a lot of money that was paid to, from Michael Jordan to come into the University of Michigan. And who do you think gets that check? The school gets that check. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's such a overemphasis put on winning games.
Yeah,
that
100%. You're exactly right.
Here's the part: coaches just kind of get away with murder.
Yeah, and here's the part that's really tough is that people are willing to forgive minor cheating, like a couple $100 handshakes. That's okay. Letting go of a couple tickets or a player that does some things in the community. That's okay if the player's a winner. But if the player's not, then you put them to the side. So the standards are a little bit all over the place. And the tough part is when you look at it is the fact that people, and you and I have talked about it, we even joked about it, that if Michigan State, if you were to tell me, look, and you pose this question to me and you say, John, look, 2020, I'm going to tell you Michigan State is going to win the national title in football. You will see a celebration. You will see that. But in return, one or two of your players will have done some things nefarious, taken $50,000, will have maybe had a pass that was covered up. Would you take it? That's the hardest question because you know what it feels like to win. Mm-hmm. You know what it feels like, and it's really hard.
And nobody can ever take those memories
and you can't take that memory from you. But I'll say this. 5 years ago, I would have said, give me the title. But you know what? I would rather have a competitive team that's clean going forward. All these stories that have come out, all the things that we've talked about, with Michigan State and the players that they brought on, even 3 years ago in the length of this podcast, I would say, we joke. We'd be like, bring in some thugs, bring in some guys. It doesn't matter. Now you're a little bit older and you say this. No, I'd rather have the program be respected and clean as opposed to saying to me, I'll give you a national title. I want a clean program. And that's more important to me now as I enter my 40s. And I say, look, winning's great. But if you win with a clean program and you win with guys as a unit that all work together for a common goal, if it's just one national title that I get to witness in the next 40 years of my lifetime, I'll take it as opposed to saying, John, I'll give you 2 or 3, but you got some bad people in your organization, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And we've talked about it before.
We're getting old and we want it to be clean. Give us a clean program.
What are you willing to give to get the ultimate prize? Some people aren't willing to give anything. No. It has to be absolutely clean. Other people are saying, hell yeah, whatever you got to do. Let's just get me the national championship. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I think the head football coaches get lumped down into that same mentality where it's at all costs. We have to win whatever it is. Because you got to realize their job's on the line. Mm-hmm. And these aren't small jobs. I mean, going through the whole Zach Smith case, right? I mean, he wasn't even a good assistant coach, and that guy was making a boatload of money. Imagine if you're a very good head coach, a la Urban Meyer, a la DJ Jerkin, who I don't think was a very good head coach, but he's at a big-time university, and he's making big-time money. You got to win at all costs because it's all about winning.
Now, I want to ask you this, our final topic on this week's edition of Doc and Jock. We're looking at Michigan and Michigan State's offenses, their defenses, and obviously when you look across college football, and even in the National Football League, there's a heavy emphasis on the offense, the sexiness of the game, the quarterbacks, the running backs, the offensive line, the wide receivers, the tight ends. How many touchdowns are you going to score? But when you start to look at Michigan and Michigan State and the way that they've been winning and what their rankings are defensively, they're ranked both in the top 15 nationally in terms of their defenses. Their organizations have been built with really great defense, and many Michigan fans will say, wow, Don Brown and what he's been able to do has allowed the team to be competitive. Michigan State, same thing. They have a solid defense that is old school. I mean, stop the run, force turnovers, really clamp down and force pressure, force turnovers. So I'll ask you this, and it's interesting. Are you okay with Michigan and Michigan State maybe changing their perception and hyper-focusing on defense and becoming teams maybe that buck the trend a little bit in 2018? Not this pro-style offense, not running all over the place, 5 wide, scoring up and down the field, but maybe say, look, if we can stop teams, if we can be the best of the best in terms of defense, everyone says defense wins championships. What's more important, a good defense or, you know what? Really focusing in on Shea Patterson and what he's able to do and really emphasizing having a solid offense. What's more important to you?
You can win with an elite defense, but more times than not, you need a good offense to get you over the hump in college football. In the NFL, I think we both agree that we'll take defense all day long and we'll piecemeal it with whatever we can do on offense.
I got one word how I want to describe it. I want one thing on both sides of the ball. Starts with an S. Speed, baby. Just give me speed, because if you just look at what Alabama does and Clemson and what goes on in the SEC, they run to the football, they pressure everybody, they're super fast. So if it's speed on offense and you can score 50 points, give me that. If it's speed on defense, give me that. And what I think is going on in the Big Ten is they kind of find these athletes that are really kind of big-time dudes, you know what I mean? And they're not as fast. Now, it's getting better with recruiting opening up to Florida, but the Big Ten style of football in the past wasn't conducive to winning national titles and competing with the SEC. It's gotten better. The gap has closed. But give me speed, baby, all day. But for me, naturally, I'm a old school guy. Give me defense.
You love defense. I love defense.
The big
too.
hit, the takeaways, the stopping the guys. I like that. You know, basically, or you could say this. I kind of like a 28-27 game with the defense happening at the end of the game. Big plays happening back and forth where it's 28-27 at halftime, and then everybody clamps down, and you're starting to wiggle where points are at premium.
Let me give you this stat, though, to kind of put into perspective what I'm saying about how you need a decent offense to really help your team and really help you be effective when you're trying to win games and eventually win a championship. Last year, Michigan had the 3rd best overall defense. Michigan State had the 7th best overall defense in college football. Michigan ranked 96th on offense. And where did they finish? They finished 4th in the Big Ten East. Not even in the Big Ten overall, but in the Big Ten East, they finished 4th.
Wow.
Whereas Michigan State finished 76th in offense. And where did they finish?
Were they 3rd?
I believe they were 3rd. It just kind of gives you an idea of how much offense is important to what you're trying to accomplish in college football. The National Football League is totally different, but you need a good offense to help carry you. Look at Alabama. Alabama had the best defense in all of college football last year, right? I think we both agreed they won a national championship last year with defense. But you can sit there and you can argue that it was because of their offense that they were able to take home that championship. They had the 17th ranked offense last year. Once they put Tua Vailoa in, it just went off because they were getting their butt handed to them up until he entered the game. And once he entered the game, they started making plays downfield. They started scoring touchdowns, and that game was flipped upside down, and they took that game away from Georgia last year.
Do you think Michigan will be known by the season's end as a defensive team or an offensive team? What will be more? Because I do think Michigan fans, they're gripping. They're ready for Shea Patterson to take this over and to help even it out, where in the past, Michigan's defense has been really well known. I'm going to argue that defense is really solid. You got some great players in Rashawn Gary. You got, Don Brown with a great scheme. I still think that just because you plug and play a new quarterback, yes, you have the ability with those running backs, but at the same time, there's a chance with what people have done in the past to stop them. If you pressure the quarterback, there's ways to stop Michigan's offense, and it's been shown in the past. So I still think by season's end, that defense will be really talked about and really carry that team.
I think the defense, it's going to be known as a defensive team. Right now, they've got 3 guys on their team right now that are in the top 25 of college football players.
And plus, Michigan's offense,
defense.
It's conservative. I feel like they're just going to run the ball a lot of tight end passes.
I think you're going to see something
opening up.
Totally different.
It's going to be opened up?
Yeah.
Finally?
I was reading a couple different articles, and it sounds like Michigan is going
balls to the wall?
Just, they're installing a new type of offense. And it's because Shea Patterson is going to be your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no beating around the bush anymore. Shea Patterson is going to be your quarterback, so they have to devise a brand new offense for him. Now, this brings up some concerns for me because you now have an offensive line that has to learn a new scheme. They were learning a new scheme anyways because they have a new offensive line coach, but it's going to be a totally different offense, so they have to learn a brand new offense. Your wide receivers, I think, will be fine because they're similar plays for the wideouts, and your running backs are going to have a little bit of a learning curve themselves. So it's going to be a brand new offense because they're tailoring it to their quarterback, which I think is smart. But Shea Patterson's your guy. There's no, it's what it is at this point. I think this team will still be known as a defensive team. If I can get some monicum of success from this offense, like you don't be 96 this upcoming season, right? If you could be, I don't know, in the top 40 offensively, just imagine what that would do. Your defense doesn't even have to be as good as it was last year. If it could be a top 10 defense and you get a top 40 offense, take it all day long, and you're going to be that much more successful in your venture to sit there and win a national championship.
On the other side of the coin, I do think by season's end, Michigan State will be known for that offense. There's been whispers,
100%.
A lot of whispers regarding Lewerke being an outside candidate for the Heisman. If he does well, I think that with senior leadership at running back, the continuity that you can display, Michigan State, I think, is geared a little bit more towards offense this year. If they can finally get out of their own way and kind of similar to Michigan, just let loose, man. Let's see what happens. Balls to the wall. Let's see what happens.
So just to give you a little perspective, last year, the 2 teams that played for the national championship, Alabama and Georgia. Alabama had the number 1 ranked defense, while Georgia had the number 6 ranked defense. And offensively, Georgia had a top 10 offense, while Alabama had a top 17 offense. So you do need both. You do need both. If you're going to be an effective team and you're going to play at the highest level, you do need both. It's just one of those things where you got to give a little bit to get a little bit. Oh, look, we have a special guest in the house here.
At the end of the recording, who shows up?
The busiest guy in all of the media. Come on, Vito, pull up a chair here. Pull up a microphone here. Talk with us a little bit.
Glad to be along for the ride.
Well, hey, we're happy to have you here. You're over here doing more official business. This guy's always on official business, isn't he?
Not official, some kind of business.
Some kind of business.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, I seen Doc was totally creeping on you when you were walking around outside handling some business. This guy's videotaping you.
Yeah, and we just talked about how, there's a secretive recording, going on now all the time, right? Of people when they're doing their own thing. And then this guy's up to no good. He has
never up to any
record
good.
Me, has the audacity to record me. I mean, come on, man.
Don't you find
and still do that.
Don't you find it funny, though? A guy's on the phone and he's just like all into the conversation with his hands, and he's walking. I'm like,
I'm walking in the parking lot. That's how I get into it.
You're Italian, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. You always talk with your hands. That's
it's always entertaining. So that's how it is.
Wait, in your household, right? In your household, nobody talks. Everybody yells, right?
You know what? Pretty much everybody outside of my brother Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of quiet, more to himself. But my mom and dad and I, we all yell.
All yell.
And with our hands. We're talking with our hands, trust me.
Me too.
So
you see me do it. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Look at this. See?
We talk when we record the podcast. I do the same thing, yeah.
Now, Vito, we got a couple minutes left of this recording. We were just talking, and we'll get your sense of it. What do you think Michigan and Michigan State will be known for, offense or defense, by season's end, college football?
Michigan defense, I would say MSU offense, because of Brian Lewerke, first and foremost. I think he's better, or at least deserves some validity, credibility, more than Shea Patterson right now because of what he did last year at MSU. Lewerke, I'm speaking of.
Absolutely.
Adam had the argument that this year, with the unleashing of Shea Patterson, there's a chance that offense could take over that defense.
Well, better, or they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to win their 10 games and beat the teams they should be beating this year, right? The teams that everybody cares about them beating.
Right. I think that offense is going to look totally different. From what I was reading, what I was gathering, it sounds like they're installing a new offense. Now, it's not a total scheme change, but they're installing basically a different setup, and it's all to compensate Shea Patterson and to really accentuate what he does well. And I'm excited for that. I think that's a good idea. I think that's good. So,
well, sure. I think it's going to be more of a hybrid, like, he can roll out, scramble, make his own plays like Johnny Manziel, where there's really nothing under center, right? It's not going to be like that. I think it's going to be more geared towards what he does best, Shea Patterson, which is rolling out, making plays.
Now, we haven't talked about this. Are you going to be in the press box this year again?
For a couple of games at least.
Yeah!
So I'll be there.
Good.
My presence will be noticed, I hope, by a few people.
Are you going to Notre Dame at all?
No, I won't be able to go there, but that'll be a great game. First game, big test to start off the season, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, you got to win that
I'll be hammered
game.
in a parking lot.
I'll be somewhere, I think, partying too, maybe drinking too much. So maybe not in a parking lot, but at somebody's home watching the game. And before the game, I'll be drinking.
Look, win or lose, just take like a 15, 20-second video and let us see what it's like to party at Notre Dame.
Oh, I will.
Because you'll be there, you're tailgating there before the game. Wow.
Yes. Yep.
Very
so
cool.
my wife has already made friends. Thank God. She's got a different personality, so sometimes it's hit or miss with her. But anyway, she's made friends. Get myself in trouble here. They're all hot. Yeah. They're all hot. So
good for you.
No,
a good day for you.
No, it's bad. No, it's
the
bad
opposite.
for me. It's bad
it's
for me,
horrible then.
especially when I start drinking, because then I become way too friendly. She's already yelled at me once
That's
about
right.
this.
Whack it, too.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
Anyways, so she's made friends. They all work for Notre Dame. What are you giggling at over there?
Yeah, he's already giggling again at something else. You can never keep...
What did you just say?
He never stays focused. What?
Yeah, about whacking it. Yes.
No, I'm not getting whacked. I didn't say whacking.
I totally
come
rolled.
on,
I just moved on.
Come on.
It hit me late.
Yes.
You're really late. Head in the gutter big time. Come on, man. Anyways,
they all work for Notre Dame. So they're all in there. So we're gonna go. It's gonna be me and her, and it might be my cousin Jeff, who's a huge Michigan fan, like obnoxious Michigan fan. I don't know if he's gonna go or if I want him to go because he might get us in trouble.
Sure,
but it should be interesting. It should be interesting.
Okay,
and I will take a video.
Yes.
And I will send a video.
Yes.
We'd love to
I'll
see it.
tag you
Tweet it
guys
out.
in it.
Yes.
Our time has come to an end. Great addition. When Vito joins,
I'm excited that Vito just showed up
Out of
randomly.
nowhere. Do not expect this.
He's like RKO out of nowhere.
Do you like professional wrestling, Vito? You got 15
I don't
minutes?
get into it.
Okay, so
no
you're-
WWE love for me. I know you guys can tackle it, all the topics,
right.
hard-hitting, hard-pressing issues. I know there's so many of them in WWE.
You don't
but
like guys who don't wear pants but wrestle for belts?
You know what? I don't really like it too much.
No?
All right,
Not me.
let's get out of here. Great edition. Thanks for all your support. Visit us, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Follow Vito at Vito Jerome. Follow Adam. Follow the Jock at Adam R. STROZ, and you can follow the network at Detroit Podcast. See everybody next week. Thanks for paying attention to the fun and hilarity of this network.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.